This entire week, I have been tired, not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to do any sort of exercise since I got back from Japan. And yeah, I got to change some stuff around, which is usual. But
yeah, and it's now spring. It's officially spring now.
It is. That's true. This might seem like an odd question, but I feel like I always have to ask because there's certain things that we have on the East Coast that you don't have on the West Coast. Do you have Ritas over there?
It doesn't sound familiar. No.
Okay. It's Rita's Italian ice.
No, at least not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So it might just be like an sort of East Coast kind of thing. But anyway, we have one that's like maybe 5 minutes down the road, and every spring through fall when they're open, especially during the summer, I obsess over it. And I find myself going there like every other night or so for a gelati, which is like Italian ice with vanilla ice cream.
Huh.
And
what exactly is Italian ice?
It's like shaved ice.
Okay.
Yeah, but is
it like where they put like syrup in it or anything, or is it just?
It's not that sort of shaved ice. It's like shaved ice, but thrown into a blender and smoothified, but frozen.
Okay.
Let me see if Google can help me out here in my description. Okay, I don't need a map of where I can find Italian ice.
Is it kind of like Slurpee style or something, or?
No, it's a semi. Okay, here we go. Wikipedia can save me. It's a semi-frozen sweetened treat composed of finely granulated ice and fruit concentrates, juices, or purees. It's similar to sorbet or snow cones.
Okay, so it kind of has some density to it.
Yes,
a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it differs from American-style sherbet in that it does not contain dairy or egg ingredients.
Okay.
So the ingredients in Italian ice are mixed, then whipped during the freezing process, similar to the process for making ice cream.
Okay.
Guess it is just a Eastern thing because of the Italian influence over here.
Makes sense.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Anyway, we'll go down to this place quite often and get some. And you're mentioning of it being the first day of spring, yesterday, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was yesterday. They give away free Italian ice, like a small Italian ice, on the first day of spring. And so, of course, this place is always like packed.
Yeah.
And I attempted. I tried to go over there and get some, but the line would have been like an hour wait. And
yeah. At a certain point, you're like, what's this worth? You know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's also one of those things of they don't always have the flavors that I like.
Yeah.
There are two flavors. There's root beer and there's cotton candy that I usually are my go-tos. And
I feel like those are controversial flavors for a lot of people listening. They'd be like, I'll take anything but the cotton candy, or I'll take anything but the root beer, you know?
I don't know. They're the most popular flavors, surprisingly enough.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I think is why they run out all the time by the time that I get over there in the evenings for it, which is always upsetting. Yeah, I don't know. Just a little rant on Italian ice for you.
Yeah.
And the fact that I didn't get any yesterday. So I'm hoping to go over there tonight because, nice little treat. Plus, Emmy always likes going over there, seeing all the people, and she likes to get her pup cups. So
I guess that makes sense that they'd have something for the.
Yeah. And, in case you don't know what a pup cup is, if I have to explain that,
we do have those on the West Coast. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I was going to say, what do you have for your dogs then when you go out for a sweet treat?
We just don't take I don't take the dogs. I have one dog. He stays at home. He's he doesn't stay in my purse. I don't haul him around. Like, I'm sure there's a perception of, people on the West Coast take their dogs everywhere, take them to all the places you're not supposed to take dogs and stuff like that. He lives at home. I don't even know if he likes sweet stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
Emmy gets whatever she wants, and she comes with us anywhere that she's allowed to. I don't take her in the grocery stores or into restaurants. That's just a little bit too far for me. She doesn't have that special vest that they give out for free on Amazon that allows her to be going wherever she wants.
Yeah. I don't
The
know.
vest comes with a lot of really rude looks from other people, though. So I don't know if I'm quite mentally prepared for that one.
Yeah. 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 I don't know. Like, I mean, Oliver does great at home. And so he doesn't really like going places. Like if we're taking him to like the one of the really large dog parks here in San Diego where he can run around, he loves being there. But anytime he's like in the car, you know, he starts whining and stuff. He's not immediately enjoying the ride.
See, Emmy does that too. It's very annoying. I don't know if it's a small dog thing. She whines in the car incessantly, and it doesn't matter if she knows where we're going or not.
Yeah.
She just, I don't know if it's excitement or anxiety or a mix of everything and all of the emotions, but yeah, she most certainly is not quiet in the cars.
Have you trained her to associate certain words with where you're going?
Yeah. I mean, not purposely, but like if I say like, Emmy, you want to go? It doesn't matter what comes after that. She always perks up. She reacts to that word go, like very consistently. Like, but if I say anything about go, pup cup, bookstore, and walk, those are like her 4 big ones that she'll react to.
Yeah. How does she have separation anxiety when she's left home?
Not really.
That's good.
Not that I really notice anymore. She doesn't like the fact when I'm gone, but she doesn't. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell in terms of like, unless I have a camera going or something.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing like you don't notice anything like, you know, destroyed or anything like that when you get back.
No, she's always been good with that. I think she's only destroyed like 2 things in her life so far because of separation anxiety.
Yeah.
One of them was her collar. She chewed because I didn't have it on her.
Oh, okay.
I had it setting on the step, and so she chewed one of the 3 prongs that clips it together.
Yeah.
And then I think I was down with my cousin at a separate time, and we have Christmas lights that go over like the railings on the stairs because we like to use them as like night light, so to speak, so we can actually see where we're walking and not tripping down over toys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she decided it was a good idea to eat attempt to eat one of the Christmas light bulbs.
Oh, that's not good.
So, yeah, those are the only 2 things that she destroyed, though.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that, but her anxiety doesn't seem to be too bad at this point.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, Oliver does well when we leave him alone. I mean, he's got the cats here as role models. But just in the early days, you know, there's a few things he got to, but now he doesn't touch anything. He responds really well to shaming. So, you know, if he ever does something wrong, we sort of point it out to him, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, guys," and then, you know, never again. But since it is spring now, and my front yard is starting to come alive a little bit more. I mean, I know people, you know, San Diego, what kind of seasons, you know, blah blah blah. But you know, it's notable when spring arrives. But it was last year that I bought some California poppy seeds. So it's a native wildflower here in California.
Really?
And
I hadn't noticed from the name.
Yeah, exactly. And they're weeds. I mean, like you just throw seeds on the ground and then, you know, you come back in 5 minutes and you have flowers. I mean, not quite, but you know, but they really love the sunshine. They love the soil here. And so they reseed themselves. So a lot of them came back, and then I also bought some more seeds and put some in some other places, but they're really thriving now that we have these sunny skies. We had a good amount of rain in the past couple weeks. Now it's all, you know, nice, perfect weather and stuff, but they're loving it. But I was out doing yard work, and I had to stop mowing the lawn because I looked down and like the bees were fighting over these flowers. I mean, there were like 3 to 4 bees like in each flower, just like frantically doing their thing. And then there was like a holding pattern of other bees just waiting to get in there. And then I looked at this other bush I had in my front yard that was just full of flowers, not a single bee on them. The bees were just like, no.
We prefer this over here.
Yeah, it was just like it was such a profound display of how the bees were preferring, you know, the plants that actually are native here to some more exotic type plant. So I ripped out that other plant. I mean, it was fine, but I'm like, well, bees have no use for it. So what's the point of having it in the yard? So I ripped it out, and I'll find something else to put in there that the bees like. But I just thought I'd mention that just from the standpoint that it does make a difference. Another thing I posted this on Instagram, and a couple people pointed out, yes, also the bees are non-native here. So I don't know what it truly means, because the bees we have here are not our native bees, but those bees really liked the poppies and stuff. So
I didn't know there was such a thing as a non-native bee.
I'm not sure what was here before, but I know that these are I don't know if it's like the European honeybee or there's some sort of it's a non-native bee, but I'm not sure what we had here before. But these ones are certainly the ones doing all of our, not all of it, but the vast majority of the pollination. Pollination? That does not sound right.
No, I think you're right. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. Just one of those words that after you see a word spelled out so many times, you're just like, that doesn't look right.
Or the more you say something and then it just sounds like gibberish at a certain point.
Yeah, that's how I feel when I'm talking in general.
Yeah. That also happens when I do, so I'm in the process of I'm finishing up the videos from my series to Death Valley.
Right.
Whereas in the previous episode, I mentioned Timbisha. But I'll write out the voice over script, and then I'll, try to say it very clearly as I'm recording it. I'll lay it in the video. And the moment I play it back to see how it lines up, the words sound like gibberish to me. It's the weirdest thing. I start questioning, did I pronounce that right? Did I say that right? And then after about 15 minutes, it sounds fine. But it's weird things where things get jarbled, even though I don't know. It's weird. Just when you hear something so many times.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that goes similarly when it comes to listening to your voice, like when you're editing video or podcasts.
I thought you meant my voice.
Oh, well, yeah, your voice in general. Yeah.
Yes.
Your voice is the problem, Ben. That's what it is.
Yes.
There's not enough inflection, or there's something going on there.
I need a better accent.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that too. That California accent just isn't doing it for you.
Do I have a California accent?
Honestly, I have no idea.
I don't either. I know
I can't I can't tell for sure. For certain. Jesus, but I don't know. That's something that I always think is interesting, that everyone across the United States has a different accent too.
Yeah.
You can tell. I remember when our family went to Wyoming on that bus tour, and we had families from all over. We had Texans that were pointing out the fact that we were from the Northeast, New York, Philadelphia area, very accurately pointing out where we were from. I'm like, okay, I guess that's a thing. Sure.
I mean, I don't really hear it in your voice. If I didn't know you and then I heard your voice, I would have a hard time pointing at where you're from. I could point at probably where you're not from.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that there's a specific, but also it's the sort of thing where maybe, the more you know a particular area, you can pick up on those subtle things.
Yeah. And I wonder too, if it has a lot to do with the vocabulary that you use. I mean, it almost has to. The different words as you rely on. And of course, that's also going to come with education level, that the higher, more educated that you are, perhaps the more difficult it will be to determine where you're from, in the sense that...
That's true. Because it's adapting more of a universal sort of...
Yeah, in the sense that my dad's going to rely more on words that he grew up hearing, that lay people, so to say, are going to be using, versus someone who's more highly educated, who knows more words and has a broader vocabulary.
Yeah.
Might be able to trip people up more. But I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of factors that go into it. But I always find it odd to think that someone from Pennsylvania has a different accent than someone from California, in a similar sense as someone from Scotland has a different accent than someone from Italy.
Yeah.
It seems weird to think of individual states having those differences versus countries, but I suppose they're especially in that example of Scotland versus Italy. The distance is quite similar.
Yeah. Do you ever watch Doctor Who?
I have not, no.
I never really was, I had never really seen it, but my wife enjoys it. It's kind of like a comfort food kind of a thing. And there was one episode that we were watching within the last week or so. And they had a actor who was supposed to be the president of the United States. And it was so funny hearing what the stereotypical American accent was, trying to make him sound like some degree of a cowboy, but somehow also maybe from like New York or something. It was just like this really, slow talking.
That's right, because Doctor Who is all British actors.
It's all British, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just like hearing this bad imitation of Americans, which is like to from that standpoint, that's how we sound to them,
Yeah.
And the other thing too that is kind of interesting, whenever my wife and I are watching a movie and then there's a person who's speaking Russian, usually the bad guy.
Right, of course.
Yeah. It's just, how it always is. I always look to my wife and she's like, yeah, that person has no clue how to speak Russian, or like, oh, that person's actually pretty good, or that person is probably not from Russia. They're from some other area where they're pretty close, but I can tell it's not quite there. But, it is interesting how there are those small differences that one can pick up on, when it's something that they have, more knowledge on.
I wonder how she would, or perhaps she already has, but the Black Widow movie with Scarlett Johansson.
We did watch that. I can't remember. Yeah. Typically, like in most cases, her reaction is like, that is horrible. Or she can, sometimes it's like the extras are actually decent at it because they may actually speak Russian, but usually like the main character. And I asked her to say like, what would it sound like if it was, equivalent to English? It'd be like, I am actor, I do things, something like no one talks like that,
Yeah. Because I just remember that that's the one, probably the most recent movie with Russian accents that I've watched, with David Harbour and Florence Pugh, that I'm remembering who was all in it. Those two in particular with their Russian accents.
Yeah. And there was I remember hearing a little bit about this. There was a mild controversy of sorts with, I guess, one of the movies that was at least nominated for an Academy Award, where they used AI to tweak the voices or change the voices to sound more authentic or something like that. I don't know. To me, that actually seemed, for the vast majority of people that are watching it, like if I'm watching it and there's a person who's, supposed to be speaking Russian, I can't tell the difference. So the vast majority of the people would have no clue. But, then for a person like my wife who's watching, like, wow, that person's really good. They're actually like speaking it. So I don't know. It seems like an interesting use for AI, even though it's not necessarily going to be noticeable to a broader audience, but maybe it gives at least that little bit of authenticity.
I suppose, but at the same time, I could see it as being deceptive or a sloppy workaround to people actually putting in the time and effort to properly train for a role that they've been provided. Just, an excuse to not do their job wholly and entirely.
Yeah. That's why I'm glad I don't have that job.
Yeah. You could equate the same thing, though, to like the use of AI in photography with cloning something out. Like, you could have just composed better in the first place for your photograph versus cloning out that stick and using AI to make sure that there are no weird patterns or anything showing up.
Yeah, I feel like, well, maybe for some people it's not as, it's going to be a lot to be able to gain that skill set as an actor. Especially like if one had a role where they had to like look buff like Wolverine, but also speak like a foreign language, where like on two sides you have like an incredible amount of work to do. I can't even comprehend how tricky that would be. I can't think of any parallels like with photography and the use of AI and stuff. I just know I'm glad I take pictures of rocks because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. It's not something that I would really enjoy doing or even want to be doing, I don't think. But,
Yeah.
So
what else is, what's new with you?
Been doing a bit of printing.
Oh,
That's about it this week.
Is it images from your trip to Japan, or still too soon for that?
No, they're from Japan. So part of my process is, as we've spoken in the past, is printing images that I have edited at least to, say, 90% of the way, but I'm either not certain of the photograph itself, and I need to see it on paper to see if it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to live with it for a little while to see if I actually like it enough to put in my portfolio, or it's to make sure that the edits themselves work and I'm not missing anything from staring at a screen.
Yeah,
with an image that's like 4 inches by 5 inches or whatever the equivalent is there. So I printed out 10 photographs on Tuesday, and I wanted to print out another 7 and reprint 3 yesterday, but I ran out of ink. And I haven't used my printer in a month and a half or so. So on Tuesday, when I went to use it, all of the ink levels, except for, I think, something stupid like magenta. Some color that you're like, why is this even being used? It's like,
I know that like a lot of landscape
sense.
Photographers right now are like, yeah, stupid magenta. Don't like you, magenta. And cyan.
But I mean, black and white too.
Yeah.
Black and white. They have like 5 different inks in the Canon Pro 1000 for like between gray and black. And obviously you don't need white because it's the paper. But no, of course, you need to be using blue and red and light magenta and all of these other colors to go into it. I don't know. However it works, whatever. But I was able to get through those 10 initial prints. But then when I went downstairs and went to do the second print run yesterday, it decided, okay, you can do 1. And luckily it went through the one that I decided to print. I'm pretty sure is where I want it to be, tonally at least. And I went to print a second one, and it printed halfway and was like, nah, that's all I got. And what's even more irritating about it is that the those next 2 photographs I was going to print, they're the same subject, but composed slightly different. They are I was looking down into a snow-covered river, and you can see the black holes where the snow had just not accumulated because of the river itself. And you can just faintly see the S-curve outline of the snow.
That's cool.
Or of the river, rather.
Yeah.
And one of them has that formation, that shape, going more towards the left middle of the frame, and the other one has it more on the right-hand side of the frame. And I'm not sure which one is more appealing. I've asked 2 different people so far about it, and each of them said the other. So there's no true agreement. So I wanted to print these and see how they look.
And did you try flipping them horizontally at each one to see how it changes things too?
No, I haven't gone that far just yet.
I would try that, just because sometimes if you can tell if something is a little not quite there, you flip it, and sometimes they're like, oh, this is great, or sometimes, oh, this is worse.
Yeah, that's true.
I would add that, and you can tell that on screen without even having to print it.
Right. Or when I print them, I'll be able to just manipulate them freely anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that those 2, I got halfway through it and the printer decided not to print it, because there's, like, if you look at your thumb, unless you have some ginormous thumb that's larger than like 3 inches square, if you look at your thumb, that's about the size of each of these like darker marks. And there's 2 of them. It printed the top one, but it didn't print the bottom one. Otherwise, it's a very like white, high key image. And I'm just thinking, really? You didn't have enough for that last part, that last little bit of black?
Yeah.
Couldn't have figured something out there. But
yeah,
I don't know.
That's the thing that's a bit annoying about the Canon printers, is how they're always, flushing through all the color ink and going through it, even if you never print a single bit of it. I always have a full set of cartridges for the smaller Canon that I have, because it goes through all of them, even though I only print black. That's the only color I ever use. So
yeah. So I really didn't want to, but I decided to buy a full set of ink yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday. That hurt. That really hurt.
You just be glad you're not using a wide format printer.
I don't know, Ben. It was still $800.
How much?
$800.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Those are much bigger tanks than the Canon I have. They're little tanks. I mean, they are like individually. They're maybe, I don't even know the price, but they're reasonable. And I get a whole set just because I end up needing them. But yeah, 800. That is a lot. The big printer I have, I think a full set of inks. You can choose between the like capacities because certain colors you'll use more than others.
Mm-hmm.
I think a full set of inks is 2,000 to 3,000, something like that.
Yeah, that's insane.
But also they're huge tanks. So I can see like, you're looking at these kind of smaller tanks and $800 and that is a lot. That is a lot.
I think that my bigger gripe with it is that I know I would save money if I was printing more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because at least which sounds very weird. I was explaining this to my team partner for work, and I was saying how much the inks were and everything. And she was confused a minute when I said that, yeah, if I print it more, then I would save money. Because if you just let it sit idle, anytime that you turn it on, it's going to just flush so much ink to clean through the nozzles and the lines and whatever else it has to do. Versus if you're printing even one 8x10 a day or a week, you're going to see
use. Yeah, because it's kind of, whenever you're printing, it's basically doing a bit of a cleaning cycle in a way. It's moving the ink, keeping it moving.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I really need to start thinking about ways to sell some prints. I'm not looking to turn my website into an art gallery and sell like Peter Lick kind of numbers when it comes to prints. But at least a few a month would be nice to make up for this expense of really what is my favorite part of photography is the printing itself. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see an image hang on the wall. I'd love to see an image come out of the printer and to have it take its true final form. But yeah, so I gotta look. I know that Brian Lackey does a lot of print sales through local venues, and I want to look and see what's around me, see if I can't partner up with someone local as well. That would have the customer base for the prices that I'm looking to sell my prints at.
Yeah. There's an idea that I've had on the back burner for a while now. I completely stole this idea from another photographer, but it's a mystery print sale where I would offer for sale a print maybe bigger than what I use for the print portfolios, but not large. Maybe it's 11 by 14 or something like that. Whatever I can ship pretty easily, pretty inexpensively, but put it at a reasonable price, put it out there for a limited time, and people will not know what print they're getting until it shows up. And it would be a good print. It'd be a print that I'm happy with. But by simply being able to, produce them in large numbers in one sitting, it would make it worthwhile on my end. So I'm thinking about doing that. But I just got to figure out what time of year to do that. It could be something that's in the fall more so, or something now that I have, some of that time freed up a little bit.
I would kind of question doing it in the fall, though, just because that's a lot coming out from you all at once in the fall.
That's true. That's true.
I would think that would be more something to like do during your downtime in the summer.
Which I won't have as much anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, though? Yeah. I mean, at least during the summer, I'm assuming you're speaking on printing your portfolios during the summer, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But that'll be more like September, August. So maybe it's like a June, July or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows? But I would just question doing it in the fall because of having so much coming out and kind of, in a sense, asking people, oh, here's my portfolio.
Yeah.
Here's my zine.
Yeah.
Here's a new ebook.
A question box. Yeah.
Here's a question box.
Yeah.
That can be a lot.
Yeah.
But I do like that idea. I think it goes along well with the print of the month that a lot of photographers have done. Some have stopped doing that as much. I know Guy Tall was doing that for a while.
Seems like it's a lot to keep up on.
It seems so. Yeah. And I also question how profitable it is in terms of how many people are actually participating or doing that. But I don't know. There's lots to think about.
Yeah. And there was another thing too. So I had someone that emailed me asking about if I offer portfolio reviews. And I'd mentioned that in the past I did a little bit of it, but I found it was very time consuming. And it was more difficult than it seems like it would be. And to me, it didn't feel especially sustainable as something to offer all the time. But I mentioned to him, maybe it's the sort of thing where when there is a bit of a lull between stuff I have going on, whether that is perhaps now the fall, now that it'll be after I finish all the print portfolios and the zines and stuff, and then things quiet down a little bit. But, maybe it's the sort of thing where there's like a window of, a month or whatever to offer something like that, where, it's something to consider in terms of not all the time, but give it it's like the McRib. People get excited about the McRib. I don't get the hype. I don't understand it, but yeah. So maybe there's something to be said about doing something along those lines. But at the same time, the whole reason for shifting all the print portfolio production, all that to the summer is so that I can enjoy the fall and not have as much work. And here I am just trying to load myself down with work.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that aligns perfectly with your personality of not being able to sit still.
Yes. Yeah.
But that you're mentioning of the portfolio reviews does bring me into something that I wanted to talk about. And now that we're 35 minutes into this, without having discussed what I wanted to discuss,
yes.
I think it's
yes. Just for those listening, we both went into this with basically no real notes to go
as
on.
we usually do. Every so often after a trip, we usually have things that we want to talk about individually or together.
Yeah.
And today we come into it like, okay, I have an idea of what I want to talk about, and
let's get to that first bullet point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I know I've said this in the past. I know that I said this both on the podcast and through email, but I've continued questioning this podcast as a whole, both between me being busy with a variety of other obligations, between the magazine, between my day job now, and also just not knowing if I want to continue with it.
Yeah.
I enjoy the hell out of our conversations. That should be evident.
But there's always work following it. Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like the past 2 episodes I just did today in terms of editing and throwing them to be scheduled and everything. And they've been sitting for the past 2 weeks just because it's the work that I just don't want to put into them. That being said, I know that we've also talked in the past about doing live streams of some sort for our Patreon members and kind of trying out some different things. And as I continue to navigate the path ahead and figure out what it is that I want to be putting more of my focus into, I'm kind of leaning towards the idea of pausing the podcast, whether indefinitely or just for now, and shifting, I should say, to maybe like a monthly live stream.
It's an interesting idea.
And the idea behind this, I have to work out the logistics. I'm not entirely positive how this should look, but whether it would be just catching up after like every month and having that in a public, like on YouTube, public kind of manner, whatever. But the other idea too is when it comes to this portfolio reviews, I know that Eric Bennett has done them in the past. And I know that Murray Livingston, he just recently sent out his newsletter that announced one that he is doing with Brad Carr, but group critiques, where there's, say, 2 photographers that are critiquing, giving portfolio reviews to 6-10 participants as through like Zoom or through some kind of closed off live stream. So there are ideas there, but I don't know exactly where to go with them.
That's why it'd be good to certainly have feedback, from people that are listening to kind of get a feel for where to, potentially take things. Because, there is a fair amount of work involved.
There's a lot of work involved with this. And even like today, I was able to fly through those edits pretty quick, just using the various tools that Riverside has. And just like with this episode, I'll probably be able to get this out and scheduled within an hour after recording. So I know that it's possible to get this stuff done very quickly, but it's that so many other things come up and get in the way.
Yeah.
And it really comes back down to that idea of where I want to put my time and where I want to go from here.
Yeah.
And
you have a lot on your plate. I have substantially less, but also I feel like I have a lot on my plate. So I don't know how you do it.
See, I'm the opposite. You don't have a lot on your plate, but you feel like you do.
Yeah.
I have a lot on my plate, but I feel like I don't. Like, in the sense that I feel I don't use my time very wisely. Perhaps that's what it is. But so all of this being said, as of this episode, I think we're going to take a breath, figure out some things. I do want to schedule a live stream, even if it's just us opening it up on YouTube one Sunday morning. And whoever wants to join, we can talk about photography, and I can look through some of my Japan photos, share some of that stuff that otherwise isn't being shared right now.
Yeah.
I think that would be a cool way of doing things, and then sort of go from there. If we would want to do like a monthly critique as part of that, like we talked about with the Patreon members, I don't think there's any reason as to why we couldn't implement that as well into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lots to think about with it, but that's generally where my head's at right now.
Yeah. And I think it makes sense just to kind of feel things out and figure out, where things should be taken. So yeah, I'm certainly good with that, and I think a lot of it will depend on what the feedback is from people and everything, and then weighing that against what's realistic and everything else associated with that.
Yeah, definitely. So with all of that being said, it's about time we get on to our featured artist of the week.
All right. So who do we have this week?
So this week we have someone that our viewers may recognize from a few years ago. He disappeared for a little while, but Joel Truckenbrod, and he no longer has a website. So if we go back in time, let me actually look up real quick. It's kind of funny how it ended up happening. So in 2021, Joel was featured on the online magazine for landscape photography, On Landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Payne wrote a feature about him, or a portrait of a photographer is what the series is. And this is really where Joel, started to be recognized. Otherwise, he was kind of behind the scenes, not very known. And then, I don't know, a couple months later on that year or the next year, he just disappeared. His website was down. His Instagram was taken off. There was no trace of him. And even if you look online for him now, there are a few interviews like this On Landscape portrait of a photographer. Matt and him sat down for Matt's podcast, Stop, Collaborate, and Listen. And I think there may have been one or two other interview features like that. But now,
is there any conspiracy theories like aliens or anything like that?
All I know is that he went from one of the either Michigan or Minnesota. I think Michigan. Hold on, which one is it? I don't know. He went from one of those states. Yeah, Michigan, I believe it was. And he went from there and then traveled down to New Mexico, where he's located now. And between that move and different work stuff, he just kind of let it all ride out.
So he ended up in New Mexico. I think I might be onto something with the aliens thing here.
You may be.
Because his work is crazy good. It's like too good. It's too perfect.
That is very, very true. But it's funny too, because him and I had done a print trade in 2021. We swapped 3 different prints, and since then, his 3 have been hanging up, and they were like the start of my inspiration wall. And I emailed him a little bit during that time, back and forth. He disappeared, and then earlier, I want to say last summer, I emailed him just a shot in the dark with the email that I had that was still linked to his joeltruckenbrod.com website. And he answered back. I wasn't expecting an answer. I wasn't expecting to hear from him at all, because I thought the email would be dead or whatever. But he responded back, and we've been in communication ever since. And we talk almost at least weekly, if not daily, the past few months. And he mentioned that he started up an Instagram account again, that he just recently bought into the Fuji GFX system, and now he is back to absolutely killing it with his photography.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I really don't like him, especially because he's all black and white, and that just makes it so much worse.
Yeah.
Just to see his kind of what he's coming out with already. And yeah, I mean, he only has 3 photographs as of today on his Instagram, but there's so much more coming.
Yeah, and the image he has there, they have the classic masterful black and white, well thought out compositions, attention to every aspect of them. It looks like the sort of thing that would be crafted in a dark room. But it's pretty cool that, it's with, do you know if all 3 of these are with the GFX? Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah. Everything's now that he's been posting is with the GFX. Very like before style photography, just so well done.
There's something about the kind of the tones somewhere between highlights and midtones that are very glowy.
Mm-hmm.
It has that traditional dark room sort of look where it looks like the images are glowing from within. And that's something that oftentimes digital doesn't do as well with. It doesn't have as much nuance in that range of tones. And so it's really impressive to see him getting these sort of results with a digital setup.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much else to say about him right now, as he's just coming back into things. But I've been pushing for him to get a website again, something just simple to at least start with.
Yeah.
And I know that he will be putting together a PDF for me just to share what he's been photographing besides what he's shared publicly so far. And I'm not looking forward to that PDF, but
yes. You'll be like, all right, time to throw away my camera.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I was sharing with him some of the photographs that I was printing from Japan, and we were just going back and forth because I shared those photographs, and then he shared the Dune photograph that's right now the middle of his Instagram feed, and we were both complimenting each other's work, and I said something about, great, now you're just like one-upping me. He's like, no, there's no competition. There's just equal. I'm like, no way. Not even close. But yeah, so if you aren't already familiar or following Joel, check the link in the show notes. Ben, you want to spell this one out for everybody listening? So
yes, I would love to. So that would be JOELTRUCKENBROD.
All right.
I know, very good. I'm very good at that.
Yes,
my
very, very
spelling
good.
is fantastic.
I hope that wasn't too fast for everyone listening on 3 times speed.
I think that was
try and get through us talking.
It was the perfect speed, yeah. That was an excellent choice, and looking forward to seeing more of his stuff. And for those listening, we'd love to hear your feedback on things, on the state of the podcast and future potential live streams and everything else along those lines. So it would be good to hear back from people and get a feel for stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope you enjoyed our creative banter. You can learn more about Cody's work by visiting his website, codyschultz.com. And you can find my work at benhorn.com. For further discussion, join us at patreon.com/creativebanter. It's a place where we can interact with you, the listener. And although we greatly appreciate those who contribute by joining a tier, discussions are open to everyone, whether you're a paying member or not. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you around next time.